The United Kingdom is putting people in jail for thought crimes. No, seriously. And now it may be having a major impact on entertainment companies across the pond, right here in the red, white, and blue, the US of A. Today we'll tell you what's going on and why the big tech companies are living in fear of the Brits. But it might be coming to an end if the Trump administration has their say. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel that is never afraid to take on what is happening across our wacky and wild world because it truly matters. As we dive in to what's happening across the channel, click the like button and let's tunnel on in to telling the truth with a capital T. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. It's out of the Telegraph by Simon Hankinson. Britain is no longer the country we Americans thought it was. Perhaps Brits don't realize how bad UK restrictions on speech have got. Can you say got without the N at the end of a sentence? Come on, let's get the grammar right. Such differences between our countries. Take US criticism on board before Orwell's warnings come true. This is in the Telegraph. This is the Telegraph saying this. And out of the Telegraph as well, the White House is warning Starmer stop threatening US tech companies' free speech. Members of Donald Trump's administration monitoring the Online Safety Act with great interest and concern by Connor Stringer. Now we're going to the Telegraph again for obvious reasons. Folks, what we're trying to tell you is that the draconian way that, in our estimation, the UK is approaching free speech and entertainment is being aimed, we believe, at American entertainment companies, which proliferate ideas across the world for good or bad. Made us very sad the way they were doing that with the woke era, but we're hopeful for the future. The UK, we believe, is beginning to infringe on the free speech, the constitutional rights of Americans and their corporations. Let's read into this just a wee bit, and then we'll get to it. The White House has warned Sir Keir Starmer to stop threatening American tech companies amid mounting backlash over Britain's online safety law. Members of Donald Trump's administration are monitoring the Online Safety Act with, quote, great interest and concern, unquote, after key allies said it was censoring free speech and imposing unfair burdens on U.S. businesses. The law, which regulates online speech, allows the British government to levy massive fines on companies like Apple, Truth Social, and X if it finds that rules on particular types of speech have been broken. Those in the president's inner circle see the potential penalties as an unwarranted foreign intervention into American free speech. Here's the quote from the U.S. State Department. President Trump has made it clear that free speech is one of our most cherished freedoms as Americans. Accordingly, we have taken decisive action against foreign actors who have engaged in extraterritorial censorship affecting our companies and fellow citizens. We will continue to monitor developments in the UK with great interest and concern. And you can see down below it talks about Ofcom, the UK's online regulator now. They are under what some in the U.S. government would declare to be a major attack, okay, to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars against U.S. companies. And that attack, that financial attack, may be the kind of thing that could freeze free speech out of the companies that exist in the United States, where up until about a half decade ago, we all knew was the land of say whatever you want to say. And as we get ready to go into the next story, regarding this, I just want to ask, Lauren, I remember when I was a kid, what was one of the things that other kids would come back at you with if you told them not to say something? They say, it's a free country. I'll say what I want to say. And adults said it. Everybody said it. It was like the mantra, the motto of the nation. It's a free speech. I'll say what I want to say. And guess what? That went away, but it's coming back. And the UK doesn't seem to appreciate that. Now bleeding over into the territories of the US. Lauren, a lot of these tech companies that Telegraph article is talking about, a lot of those tech companies run a lot of entertainment companies as subsidiaries. And that's where there should be significant fear. Is the UK trying to prevent U.S. entertainment from saying what it really wants to say? Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the danger lies, is that our First Amendment protections apply to the government restricting our speech. And so what they're doing is they're explicitly attacking businesses, which are multinational corporations. And that is a soft spot here. And that is difficult to try and resist, because anything that you try and do that would be restricted to a particular country is going to be labor intensive and not generate you any profit. So it's usually easier to just roll onto your back and show your belly. And that's what a lot of these companies are going to do. So I think that what needs to happen in our case is, not only do we need to fight these things in the courts, as Ron is doing with the 4chan issue, but this is where issues like tariffs need to be used. You need to take retaliatory action to let these countries know, listen, your jurisdiction ends at your border. Threaten our countries and there will be a consequence. We're, whether you like it or not, we're the 800-pound gorilla on the world stage. What we do that affects other countries' markets, we can cause some pain. And I think it's time that we're obviously trying to talk to them. Vance has been very clear about the hole that Europe is falling into. I think it's time now to stop talking and start ratcheting up the pain a little bit to let people know we're not going to tolerate this.
Well, let's talk about the pain that some of our friends in England are in right now. Out of the New York Post, it says, United Kingdom free speech crackdown sees up to 30 people a day arrested for petty offenses such as retweets and cartoons. It says it's by Chadwick Moore. It says Bernadette Spoforth lay in jail on a blue gym mattress in a daze, finding it difficult to move, even breathe. She says, I just closed down, but the other half of my brain went into Jack Reacher mode. Every single detail was in this very vivid, bright, sharp focus. She remembers noticing that you can't delete yourself in the toilet because there's no standing water and the flush button is too far to reach. Goes on to say that she had ended up being detained for 36 hours in July of 2024, and it's escalated dramatically past this now. 3 girls had just been greatly harmed to the end, and she had speculated as to what had caused that, and said, basically said, if it's happening from a certain group of people, what a horrible thing that would be. Later on, she began to wonder if that was the case and deleted the tweet, but it was too late. It was too late. And as a result, she, a successful businesswoman, was placed under arrest. Her story is one repeated almost hourly in the UK, where data suggests over 30 people a day are arrested for speech crimes, about 12,000 a year, under laws written well before the age of social media that make crimes of sending grossly offensive messages or sharing content of an indecent, obscene, or menacing character. In other words, these were laws that were created so that you couldn't physically mail people, things that are obscene. Now it's being used to say, if you post something that's offensive to somebody else on X, that you're next to go off to the paddy wagon. Now the problem here is, I recognize that every country has its problems, but the UK has been known. I mean, we're talking about the place of the birthplace of the Magna Carta. We're talking about the throne at, I guess you could still say to this day, of the Anglosphere. We're talking about the place from which so many freedoms were written down into clarity. And maybe you might say that London is on par with Rome in terms of where the West became what it is. Today, it doesn't look like that so much.
I do want to interject a little bit there. The Magna Carta came about directly as a result of Prince John's terrible rule. And so, in a sense, really bad leadership does get you really important reforms. And I hope that's where we're at right now. I hope that the pushback becomes significant enough that people do rise up and start asserting that, listen, every country gets to set their own standard for how much free speech is allowed, what they're going to enforce legally. But when it comes to the point where you're trying to make the case that standing on a street corner and praying in your head is an offense,
Tell them about that, Lauren. You're going to have to tell that, because not everybody knows what that is. I do, but can you explain what you're talking about without going into too much detail as to exactly what anyway, go ahead.
Sure. So around certain clinics that provide certain procedures,
Thank you. You knew exactly what I needed you to do. Go ahead.
There are buffer zones in which they prevent people from protesting so as not to accost people who may be availing themselves of those services. But that means that there is a radius from those locations at which people can congregate. And there are people in the UK that have been just standing there silently praying in their head and being approached by officers of the law, who then inquire, are you praying in your head? And if they answer in the affirmative, then they have been arrested, detained. When you get to that level of control, when you're actually enforcing thought crimes, you've gone to a very, very dark place. And I think that that is kind of, you've fallen into a dystopia that I always thought was perhaps a little overblown in the speculative fiction of the past. It's like it's always good to warn about these things. I wasn't really certain that you would get to that point where they would be a reality, but you're literally dealing with those things right now, and that is a scary place to be.
Well, so take that to the opposite, right? And this is why it's a partisan endeavor. This is why it's ideological, and I believe it's sinister. And by the way, anytime you try to tell people what it is they can communicate with the divine about, your state has overstepped its bounds dramatically. The state does not have any jurisdiction over heaven, I'll just tell you. But here's the deal, okay? And I mean that literally and metaphorically. Here's the deal. I'll guarantee you there are no police standing outside churches, right? Or temples, or anywhere else, any places of worship, and asking random people, who might be protesting in their head the religion of the place of worship. So it is a completely partisan endeavor. It's ideologically based. It's sinister. It's awful. It's terrible. Vash, here's the problem, and here's where it comes into our lane of interest, which is entertainment. Right. We just watched Marvel declare that they're leaving the red states, right?
Right.
Marvel, which has enjoyed making a lot of money in Georgia and getting some good tax breaks in places like Louisiana. Marvel is loading up and they're out. They're going to the UK. Everything Marvel will now be in the United Kingdom.
Right.
We're watching as Ron Coleman is defending 4chan, the UK reaching out to major companies with significant threats towards them, companies that are located in the United States. And we can only presume that some of these entertainment companies, as a result, are going to try to do things that don't offend. It may even be occurring on the platform where people are watching this video. These platforms are going to try to do whatever it is to placate the UK. And that's where I have a problem. I have a problem on the administration of censorship occurring on the platforms out of the United States rather than, hey, UK government, if this is something you want to do, which we wholeheartedly disagree with, you have at it on your side. You do it on your side. You pay whatever it takes to do that. But don't force our companies to censorship for you and your ideological sinister means.
I mean, that ideally, that is what we would all like, right? But what complicates matters is that, we either accept your entertainment product in our country or you don't. So through, in a not too dissimilar fashion, what Lauren was talking about, for the UK, it's like, we're going to go ahead and dictate these terms because we have a big international market that you want to appeal to. And so some companies and corporations feel compelled in order to provide services or provide content for that market to change for that. We saw this with China, by the way. And by the way, whether it's China or whether it's a quote unquote Western country or Western sovereigns like the UK, right? It doesn't matter. Creators should have, the ability to create for in the way that they want to, as long as it's consistent with maybe what the company wants created. If that makes sense. The issue here is that you have these either countries, governments, maybe even NGOs or any number of entities looking to alter entertainment and alter messaging in a way that suits their interests or is consistent with their laws. And something needs to be done. I don't know if you have like Marvel, for example, and they want to actually film in Pinewood or in the UK in order to get those tax breaks, and they have to placate that UK government in what they create. I don't know if the incentive structure is there for them to do what we want, and that's really unfortunate.
Now, I want to show this real quick, Lauren. British cops, this is out of World News. British cops wore jogging outfits to elicit catcalls and then arrested some men who hit on them. This is the kind of stuff that's happening in England, okay? Now, and again, let me go back to the ideological issue of this, okay? Now, I don't think you should catcall women because it's a very terribly inefficient way for you to find a date. Like, I don't know anybody who ever said, hey, good looking, you want to go out for some spaghetti tonight? I don't know anybody who got pasta off that one, okay? Not even a ravioli meatball, okay? So it's a bad way to get a girl to fall for you. If you want to make girls uncomfortable, that'll do it. And, I don't like that at all. But so long as it's a catcall and whatever, I just think it's a very rude thing to do. But I don't think that it's something you should be arrested for. And the UK apparently does. Where the ideological part of that, of course, is I'll guarantee you there's no dudes out there running. And if a lady says, oh, you're so handsome, love the way you look, they're not arresting that, right? This is aimed at men. Sorry, Lauren, for the impression. They're aiming at men specifically. And the other part of this is, if this is what they're doing, if they're setting up sting operations to get guys who say, man, she's attractive, if that's what they're spending their time on with the police, you're telling me that they won't go to Netflix or other places and say, listen, here's the standards in the UK. You can't do these things. If you do, we can't show it in the UK. And then what does that do? Well, if they do that, then what's Netflix is going to say to themselves, we're going to lose out on the millions of viewers that we have in the UK. So therefore, let's just make everybody happy and not include that in the script. So, and you might say, well, Pro, why do you want catcalling in the script? Folks, it's just an example of many things. It's the slippery slope.
Right.
How many slippery slopes have we jettisoned down in the last 7 years before we say, let's go to rights and let's fight for the rights to party? No, that's not how it goes. Lauren, you were wanting to weigh in, and I blockaded you momentarily.
No, I was just going to say this is the true danger of globalization, is that when you have, and ultimately the argument against being full right when you're talking about corporatism is that when corporations become so large that they have a multinational presence and they have to, if they want to do business in all of their multinational locations, have to cater to each of those locations' laws, then naturally what you're going to do is hit the lowest possible common denominator so you can reach the greatest possible audience. And that is poison to art, speech, and debate. That is the worst possible thing that you can do to get the best ideas and solutions to problems. And so this is why I think this is an especially important issue to be talking about. It's an especially dangerous time because what the UK is doing here is testing how far can they push their speech codes beyond their borders. They're not technically making a legal attack outside their borders per se. What they're doing is attacking these corporations' ability to operate within their borders to compel the actions that they want outside. That's a really, really dangerous thing. And this is when you start getting corporations having the kind of power that a government has. That is also something that you do not want.
And folks, this is where we need to step in for just a minute and say why it is we do what we do every day. Now, as you all know, I put out 4 videos a day, and we do 4 live streams a week here on this channel, and even more sometimes. And that's a lot of time. And I only have a finite amount of time here on Earth. Like, there's a certain amount that I get, and I'm spending a bunch of it here doing this. So why would I spend all this time talking about entertainment? And the reason I think is pretty obvious once you dive in past the surface. Entertainment pertains to the stories we believe should be told and that we gravitate towards being told. The problem I have with what the UK is doing right now is it seems to me they're beginning to move into a direction where they're declaring what stories will be told in other places. And I find that very dangerous because I don't trust governments to pick the stories for our cultures. I trust parents. I trust storytellers. I trust directors. I trust writers. But really, I trust you. I trust me. I trust the marketplace to weed out the bad ideas and where meritocracy exists to gravitate naturally towards the best stories and the best characters and the best heroes. And I don't need the heavy hand of government to declare to me who it is that I'm going to read and listen to and believe and what words I can and cannot say. I don't like it. And I don't like when other countries try to pursue that for citizens outside their own borders. Vash, I'll give you the final word on it.
I very much agree with you. Look, the bifurcation, as it were, or the split of the 13 colonies away from the British government was done for a reason, right? And you know, it was actually in the interest of content, but more religious and tax-oriented than anything else. But in the pursuit of content, nonetheless, there's a reason why free speech is enshrined in the First Amendment. It's because people wanted to be able to say what they wanted to say and tell their stories. And so when you have these, you know, overarching governments or governments attempting to you know, force their speech code, like Lauren was saying before, on other countries or on our country as it is, we should be against it no matter what, because like you said, Pro, the slippery slope there is profound. I mean, we've seen this with the anime space, for example, and with you know, credit card companies and so forth, or these you know, Visa, MasterCard, whatever else, go in and say, well, you can't produce content like this, you can't produce content like that. And we've seen how that has slipped from maybe spicy or edgy content to content that's over 18 and so forth. So I think it's abhorrent that that, you know, the censorship exists at all. And quite frankly, I don't care whether it's coming from China, I don't care whether it's coming from the UK. People should be able to tell their own stories. Again, as long as they're consistent with, you know, their home corporate interests and appeal to a market out there. As long as it's, you know, I think what we would say is illegal, then have at it, as far as I'm concerned. But again, those legal definitions are different for other countries, and that's the issue.
And let me make it abundantly clear to the UK government as best as I can. I'll say this forthrightly. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. I'm here to tell you, the heroes, the myths, the legends, the stories that we wish to view, hear, believe, and read are not Caesar's. Vash? That's where we'll leave it for right now, but we're watching the UK government closely. They need to get together. Otherwise, the rest of the world, at least the sane parts of the world that still believe in free speech, are going to have some free speech with the leaders over there. You know, it's always sad when one of these videos ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land. 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels. That Part Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place, and go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Jump into the water. Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.